internet, and welcome to the Sounds of Stadia podcast, episode number 51. You're joining me this week once again by my lovely two co-hosts. To my right, your left, the man of techie teachiness, Mr. Tom.
Woo! Good start.
And below him, the teacher of many pixels, Mr. Richie.
I teach them pixels pretty good.
He does. He
Very well educated pixels.
Who doesn't love an educated pixel? And obviously, like I said, Chris, myself, your host. You're joining us this week for some lovely Stadia news. If you are new to the show, this is the Sounds of Stadia podcast, where we bring you all the weekly gaming and Stadia news, and some other things sometimes, condensed down into an hour or so worth of chitter-chatter, where we basically talk stuff about games. We've got a very great episode lined up, a very busy episode lined up this week. We've got the Ubisoft Forward reactions and feedback we got from them. We've got the Xbox news because we have the price and date for one of our competitor consoles dropping as well this week. Some new game announcements and much, much more. But before we get all into that, let's have a look at some housekeeping we've got for you this week. We have the Monster Boy Part 11 of My Journey Continues. I won't go too much into that this week. We know all about this.
Same shit, different day.
Same shit, different day, indeed. I'm still in the volcano area, but go check that out. It's one hell of a laugh, and I definitely may need some help to get through some further bits, but we'll talk about that soon enough.
Oh, yeah.
If you are new to the show, obviously don't forget to give us a like down below and a subscribe to the channel, because that keeps you in the loop with extra things and extra content, such as the post show last week, where we talked about our favourite Pro Stadia games to date. There's been a hell of a lot of them, gentlemen, and it's ever growing, and no doubt probably next week we'll have next month's announcement. I haven't even managed to play all this month's yet, and then just keeps ticking over, and that's without all the big AAA games that are coming out this week. And a big one from us, a huge one from us, is to keep it locked to the channel so you're kept in the loop with our birthday celebrations. So next week is episode 52 of the podcast, which means we've made a year's worth of content. 52 episodes. That's going to be crazy, and we're going to celebrate by bringing you multiple shows and live streams, content, giveaways, prizes and competitions on Saturday the 26th of September. So keep that in your diaries, get that date scribbled down, wrote in, digitized, however you record things, just on a chalkboard, whichever way you keep it. Because we're basically we want to play with the community, we want to play with you guys out there on some Stadia games. Like I said, some competitions, giveaways. We'll jump in and do some probably trials, Hitman. Well, God knows.
There'll be a lot of opportunities for community games and open mic sessions and stuff like that too. But you know, it's a celebration of not just the fact that we've made it through a year, which is incredible to think of in general,
especially because it's been 2020.
I know, considering it's 2020 as well.
But celebrating you survived it so far.
But just also a celebration of our community as well, and to everybody who obviously is with us at the moment. All we've had like hundreds of you so far as well, every single one of you, and we want to say thank you to you as well for your support. So definitely lock it in, Saturday 26th.
Yeah, and we'll have probably a more concrete schedule up closer to the time as well, so you can actually see when you're available from your busy lives to stop by and enjoy us. But yeah, massive deep thank you and appreciation from all of us at Sounds of Stadia for sticking with us for this upcoming entire year's worth of content. It's crazy. Another big probably shout we should also do is to our lovely patrons out there. You go extra mile to support us. You write in with your questions every week. You chat with us in the Discord chat, over on Facebook. You comment in the YouTube comments, and it really does mean a lot to us to see that all the hundreds of people who listen to the podcast out there do tune in and just give us your feedback and keep us ticking over. It makes it all worthwhile. So thank you so much as well. Because we are coming up on a year, and we are the longest running Stadia UK podcast, so let's keep it going, eh? Let's keep this train chugging away.
We ain't done yet,
and we're certainly not this week, because as I mentioned at the top of the show, it has been one busy week in the world of gaming, and more importantly for Stadia, because it's been we've got mentions, we've got shout-outs, we've got guest appearances, and we're going to talk all about that by bringing you what is
the super sexy special Stadia Stories segment, aka The News.
And it's, like I said, it's been one busy week. We kicked off this past Thursday by not doing a live stream, but by watching a community watch along with all you lovely people out there for the Ubisoft Forward September event, where we tempered our expectations last week. We didn't go crazy on predictions because we thought we'd reel it in a little bit and let's get real with what Stadia's presence was going to be. And we discussed it on last week's podcast, but we knew Immortals Phoenix Rising was a thing. Have you heard
Confirmed as Phoenix now.
Confirmed as Phoenix,
confirmed.
yeah. It's no longer Gods and Monsters, which we all know was a better name, and I think everyone in the industry has discussed it at this point and said it was a much better name. As generic as Gods and Monsters was, it's officially been confirmed, and they started off their showcase by hitting us with Immortals Phoenix Rising, chaperoned by some James Brown sick funky beats as well coming out unexpectedly. Really set the tone for the thing, but more importantly, we got a really good in-depth look at what the game is about, to be honest. And I'll throw it over to you guys. I'll start with you, Tom. Did this reinvigorate your interest? Did it make you pre-order the game? What was your quick take on this kind of re-envisioned Gods and Monsters game?
Yeah, no, I've definitely pre-ordered it now. It sort of gave me a lot more of a sense of satisfaction watching the way that they presented it. Originally, there was, there wasn't a lot of news, a lot of hype around it. We knew something was coming, and we saw the art style through the leaks of the Stadia leak that we had earlier on, towards the start of this year, wasn't it? Towards like April-ish.
Yeah. Time makes no sense.
Yeah, time.
It was June near one of the Connects.
It was.
Oh,
it was.
Yeah.
It was either April or June. But now we've actually seen some footage. We've seen some actual gameplay of it. We've had dev talks and talking about map creation, like the whole environment and so on. It's definitely gotten me very interested in getting this game now, because it reminds me, and you see this a lot in the media at the moment, that they're talking about. It's like a Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild clone, but it's also got that like Assassin's Creed Odyssey legacy, that sort of like mythology mixed into it as well. It's Assassin's Creed Odyssey with a nice skin to it, but it's also more focused on like the mythological side of ancient Greece as opposed to the, just exploring the Isles and the history of the Isles instead.
I think I described it during our watch along as what would happen if the Assassin's Creed Odyssey team decided to make a Zelda game, but with all the concepts that probably were a bit too outlandish for an Assassin's Creed game.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, a flying mechanic is one of the things that we've got to think about there, right? Assassin's Creed with wings and being able to fly around.
Without Da Vinci's flying machine.
Yeah,
none of
exactly.
That. So yeah, the game is obviously a great fresh look at it. It has been, like, I've watched quite a few bits of the gameplay that they released to the press and other influencers and such, and the gameplay itself very much is. I don't want to keep making those Zelda comparisons, but it's definitely inspired or just copy and pasted from it. But we're going to hear that forever now.
I think we have to address that, though. I think that there is definitely a feeling of that inspiration there. So as much as we want to try to steer away from it, I think it's impossible to do that, because it's almost like Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild has almost created that new sort of open world-esque, there is a survival element to it as well, like with the feed, the hunger and stuff like that. But it's going to be very difficult to steer away from that. I just hope that it does enough different to be seen as its own sort of franchise, as opposed to being too down that alley.
I think it does, because it seems to be combining a lot of the combat mechanics from Assassin's Creed. You can see on the overlay, the HUDs, that it looks very much like very inspired by Odyssey.
Yeah.
Is it running in the same engine as Odyssey?
I would have thought so, yeah.
Yeah, I'd expect so.
I think it is going to be probably significantly different to Breath of the Wild. It's just when you've seen these big sprawling landscapes and brightly coloured hues and stuff, and then going on an open world adventure, you immediately go, oh, that's a Zelda game.
Yeah, it's even to a point though, some of the puzzles that they've since showcased, they are genuinely like, they have the puzzle rooms in Zelda, it's almost like copy where she's got a weapon or a power ability that allows her to lift blocks using essentially a magnet, and you put the block into the puzzle to unlock the door, you shoot arrows at certain things to trigger gateways and stuff, and it is almost one for one. But the key difference for me and the interesting take is how people who've seen that game are now going to see this, and essentially probably a richer, because again this game's running on like next gen tech as opposed to the Switch, which is limited to the Nintendo hardware. I'm interested to see how fans really take this and go, you know what, they've kind of took Breath of the Wild and they've made it its own thing, hopefully, but it looks gorgeous in so many of the wide shots and such. Beautiful.
They're definitely inviting the Breath of the Wild comparisons, because like there's one shot where you see like a forest going up to like some mountains, and there's a castle and it's with like swirling like red and black lighting around it. It's like, it's very much looks like Hyrule Castle from Breath of the Wild, right in the center of the map.
Yeah,
it's like But yeah,
But you know what? Inspiration, great things as well. I mean, Zelda got all the Breath of the Wild, got all the Game of the Year nominations for its release year, and what a game it was. It's going to be revered as one of the best. So why not copy or imitate or iterate on it? Why not? It makes sense. It's Game of the Year material.
Interestingly, actually, it's not on our agenda, but Nintendo are apparently instructing developers to prepare their Switch games for 4K. So there's very heavy rumours of a Switch Pro coming, so we might see an updated version of Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
Interesting.
In an alternate universe, I've said it a few times in previous episodes of the podcast, the perfect pairing to make Stadia elevate to that next level and Switch have that internal infrastructure, that internet infrastructure, that's going to allow them to compete with Xbox and Sony. Even though they very much play their own game, they always have and they always will done. Could you imagine a world we live in where Switch just has a Stadia app within it, and all the AAA games that Switch cannot play, even the Switch rumored Switch Pro, just playing via the internet? Because essentially the Switch just needs the app, right? It's got Wi-Fi, it's got internet. So is it that hard push to think if we can get Stadia on iOS, one of our latest stories, hopefully? Just imagine, and then if they just did that partnership, I think it would help them out both tenfold. You can play Mario on Stadia on the cloud, and you can play.
Yeah, it would be an amazing partnership, but I cannot see it ever happening.
No, it's the perfect partnership from both out my point of view for both parties. But the way the
because
business
Nintendo have got the legacy in gaming, and Google are a tech giant. You combine them two things, and you're in for a winner.
Yeah,
and I'd love to play Stadia games on my Switch.
Yeah.
Speaking of Google again, though, bringing it back to Immortals Phoenix Rising, let's just give a massive shout out to Phil Harrison for actually making an appearance at what I would probably say is a key moment in the Ubisoft Forward event there.
Well, not
only just to reiterate the fact that Stadia is still here and is still a thing, but also that actually development teams are really sort of invested in the technology, because not only are we getting Immortals Phoenix Rising on Stadia, but as part of it, we actually have got a unique island specifically for Stadia players. This content will not be available anywhere else on any other platform at all.
My only thing is, it's I'm in on this game. I was very disinterested in it before the trailer. I'm very much now in. I don't know how much people who are not already in the Stadia ecosystem care about this game.
I'd imagine it's got quite a lot of chatter going on the internet from what I've seen, and I really do think that, like you said there, Tom, I think Phil showing up at such a widely, anyone watching this who was watching the Ubisoft conference, there's probably going to be a lot more people who would watch a Stadia Connect. So I think him getting his face out and the brand and that giant ass logo chained up on the wall behind him was a huge kind of just a notable point. He obviously thanked Yusuke Malt and Ubisoft for the partnership, which we know they've been the best by far for partnerships. We cannot deny that Ubisoft have been amazing with supporting Stadia. But in terms of that, I don't think we can really talk about how much that hits home, that it's still a thing. And I've watched a few other influencers and such on YouTube since talk about it, and it's actually yes, they make their jokes of it's still a thing, whatever, but they cannot deny it's an exclusive demo coming exclusively to Stadia, as you mentioned, with exclusive content. And these are the type of deals that they need to be making and reaching out to and using that Google cash milk and getting it out there and really just cementing them in, so then people start to think, well, actually, you know what, I want to try this game out, I can play it early. And the fact that we said before previously on the show, you want to demo this, no downloads, no updates, don't have to delete anything from your hard drive, you literally just click to play. If you've got a Gmail account, you can test out this demo. So it might be exclusive to Stadia, but it's not exclusive to anyone per se who doesn't have a Gmail account.
You don't have to pay to get into any sort of special club or anything.
Yeah, you've just touched on something, Chris, that I forgot about. Tom, you're absolutely nuts for pre-ordering this game.
Definitely.
You're getting a free demo. I don't know why you pre-order it before the demo.
He just loves James Brown.
I'm going to play the demo. If I like it, I'll pre-order
the whole point is I just want to be able to show off how easy it is to actually just pre-order. I can literally just hit it and do it. And I'm not even being charged for it at the moment. That's one of the best things about it now. You don't even get charged until the day that it comes out. And then again, I don't need to preload anything. I know we keep singing the praises of Stadia, but again, just to reiterate the fact, I hit a button the day it comes out at midnight, which I believe it actually says on the app, at midnight, probably Pacific time, which is about 9 a.m. UK, 8, 9 a.m. UK. It will be available instantly.
Is that true? because we're seeing a lot of grumblings about things coming out about 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening.
We
recently in the UK.
We have, but I do believe that the launch for it is expected to be global midnight Pacific.
See, that's where I think they need to start. One of the things Stadia does, the criticism, it does actually downplay the praise of, you don't need to preload things if you can't, start the game, go and installing in the morning, come back and work from play. If it doesn't actually go, no, I can just play.
Yeah.
If that time frame is...
That 100% needed. And I've been very vocal on Twitter that it needs sorting out, because for somebody who was off work when Avengers came out, I didn't take it off. I just happened to be off that day. Woke up, did the house jobs and stuff, being an adult, but then sitting down in the early afternoon thinking, right, I'm free now. This is the time I would usually play a game. I played Hitman instead, so I still had time to do, but my mind was like, I want to get into Avengers. I can see everyone playing Avengers, and I had to wait until 5 p.m. in the afternoon. And I've seen people saying, well, what does it matter? And it's like, it does matter, though, because people do take time off work. If you just happen to be off that day, your time is precious. Everyone's time is precious. That's why we thank people for taking time to listen to us three idiots talk about Stadia on a weekday.
Take a comparison to a game I've been playing recently, Tony Hawk's 1 and 2 Remake. That I had actually pre-installed for almost a week before it came out. I could, on my PlayStation, just hang over the icon, and I could see it counting down. So that got the immediacy. As soon as it was launched, I had it. Yeah,
I think
it's just getting that consistency between.
I think it's the next step in what we need to see from Stadia. Really, I know there's a lot of people in the Stadia community in general talking about certain features that are missing and so on. But I think it's important to address the fact that, one of the benefits of Stadia, again, is the fact that we can play things instantly without downloads, without pre-installs, and so on. So we need to showcase that fact by having the same release times as other platforms. Yeah. Because if we are ending up waiting, then rightly, as you've said, Chris, there is no point in that, because people do see that information and they expect to be able to play it then and there, because we take our times to reschedule our lives around these things. Sound like, as video game addicts, I'll call us, essentially. Because we are, right? We love playing video
I'm the alcoholic at the door, at the pharmacy, not the pharmacy, at the corner shop in the morning going, I need to get my bottle or something like that. But
I'm the guy at 1 o'clock in the morning going, I should go to sleep because I'm tired, but I need to keep playing.
Yeah. 1 more hour.
But the sad irony would be if we get the exclusive demo on Stadia with the exclusive island, but then when it comes out, I have to wait 17 hours past midnight on the day to play it, when everyone else on PlayStation 4, Xbox are already playing it. It's like, great demo, great exclusive, get there, Phil, but the game's still out everywhere else beforehand. Needs to be sorted.
It's a minor criticism that you just need to get that standardised and get it launched at the same time. If you get it launched at the same time as other consoles, then you're getting your players hands-on with it several hours before most other people.
You say it's minor, but it is still impactful. I think it's something. Yeah. It's a stabbing point for a lot of other content creators who are negative towards Stadia out there. That they will look for any sort of ammunition to sort of take down the platform and have their word about it.
Indeed.
You give them that, then that's something they can run forward with. Take it away from them, then they have to move to the next one.
And I don't think it's new. I think this is something that is starting to build, starting to see a bit more chatter in the Facebook groups and stuff. I think with things like Avengers being a big game day and date, that's where a lot of this chatter came from.
Needs to be day and date, time in time, bang on midnight. But speaking of taking things down there, Tom, other things that were taken down many, many years ago, but have since made a resurgence thanks to Ubisoft. We got another game announced, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, Complete Edition, on its 10th year anniversary, hits us once again. So for anyone who knows, I believe this game was taken down for copyright. I think was it the music or something? Basically, it was removed from all stores in about 2016, if I'm not mistaken. And
I think it was just licensing agreements expired.
Because it was based on a comic based on a movie. That made sense.
Yeah, I think Universal had some play in it to basically, because of, as you said, movie rights, comic rights, etc., etc.
Well, there's things like a lot of Nintendo themes in the movie and stuff.
Edgar rights.
Yeah. There's a lot of Legend of Zelda themes actually in the movie. He opens up an Amazon box and it's the Zelda chest opening music, stuff like that.
Right,
is probably being problematic.
Well, we know what Nintendo are like with copyright. So.
When there's a lot of heavy video game references and other cultural media references in one title, then it's suddenly shit, we've got to go out and get all the rights to everything that we use in here.
But kudos to Ubisoft for getting their hands on this one and bringing it back, because it is a well-revered game. We've all played it, right? at some point in our lives?
I haven't played a lot of it, but I mean, Scott Pilgrim's awesome. So,
The movie.
I mean, it's a huge surprise to see this one announced because we all saw like the little pixelated 10-year cake appear with the candles.
I think, what's this?
Well, I thought Rayman initially, but then it's not 10 years. Your
10
Rayman's
years,
like 25.
no. I could have I couldn't even think of anything else that would fit the bill at that point there. But
I didn't even realize this game was Ubisoft. The Scott Pilgrim game was Ubisoft. To be honest, that's how surprised I was by it.
Oh, they've done so many games though, Ubisoft, over the years.
And you also think about it, like since the movie came out, the movie's based on a series of 6 comics by Brian Lee O'Malley. There is nothing else to it. It is what it is. There is no additional content on top of what it is. But 10 years have gone by. Obviously, there is nothing else to talk about with Scott Pilgrim. So again, it's sort of come out of left field a little bit. Just like, oh, yeah, Scott Pilgrim, here you go. Which for me, I'm really grateful for because again, like you guys, I absolutely love it. It's brilliant.
You know what?
For the gamer nerd at heart. Excellent.
I think it was a perfect game to be in the second announcement slot as well. Because we've just had Immortals Phoenix Rising. It's like, okay, he's a big new IP, and he's a massive surprise of a cult classic to get you going. It's like
your Battletoads announcement or something, isn't it? Really,
the only interesting one to this is if you had purchased the game originally way back when on PS3, Xbox 360, you're gonna have to buy the game, unfortunately. Which this isn't forward progression and stuff; it's the complete edition. But obviously, the game was pulled from other digital stores, but if you had it installed on your hard drive and stuff, that's fine. I don't know if they ever did will have done a physical. Actually, say that I don't think I've ever seen this game in a box art.
No, I don't think there was ever a physical edition of
digital only. So it's like one of those other licensed games, like Deadpool. You can't get your hands on Deadpool because Activision lost or pulled the license or something, so that went as well. So if you want it physically, wonderful. If you ever want to play a Deadpool game, good luck.
I mean, that is the advantage of physical media, and actually even just digital downloaded media is like if it's on your hard drive, it's still there.
Yeah,
it's something I think Stadia and like xCloud and things might hit a problem within probably not 5-10 years, but maybe like 10 years when licensing does expire. So developers have to pull the game
when the lawyers get involved. Damn lawyers. Yeah. But
maybe they'll figure out ways of just it's on your account, but no one else can buy it or something.
Yeah. And then next story that moves us on to then is you're saying there, Richie, the perfect second slot was for a kind of to make a comeback. Tom, your long-awaited desires to see the Sands of Time once again, Prince of Persia, getting a remake. Ubisoft, I called on the thing, Ubisoft's first remake. Even though they've done remasters, and this gets back to the conversation with what's the difference between a remake and a remaster. So they've took the original game, they've redone everything well with it. It's had some criticism, I think rightly so.
I'll give you my hot take on it in a second, Chris.
Yeah, so they're remaking the game. They've brought Yuri Lowenthal back as well, voice of Spider-Man. Did the voice for the Prince originally, and They've outsourced it to it's a new team in India, I believe, the new Ubisoft team. So they're working on it secretly. They're really passionate about it for the nostalgia and everything. I think I did have this game, Prince of Persia. I think I played through some levels, and I think I got stuck on a puzzle. And as like a young teenager back then, I think I just took the game back with the receipt because I couldn't get past a certain part. And that was before guides, or I just think I lost patience with it and took it back. But I know it's well revered.
Yeah.
So it gives you a hot take then, Tom. Are we happy and saddened by this? Did you want more?
I mean, Prince of Persia: Sands of Time is one of my favourite platforming, puzzling games of quite a generation, really. I played the ever-living shit out of that game. I loved it. Really, really, really enjoyed Prince of Persia. And controversially, I also really enjoyed the Jake Gyllenhaal movie as well. It's just because I'm a Prince of Persia fan. Like I love the series. I was really, really, really excited to actually see that they are actually remaking it. And you are right. It is the first Ubisoft title that is being remade. It's not a remaster. It is a pure remake. We saw video footage during the Forward of the actual motion capture. They had everything was motion captured, everything down to the way that Yuri Lowenthal was holding the dagger as well in his hands. And then they showed us how it transitions from the mocap into the actual game art, and then it looked like a bag of shite.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I'm hoping you're not going to come here and defend it, because
I was a little defensive during the during our live reaction, because because it was like we're streaming it, then streaming it on, so there's lots of compression going through. But it's like, no, I've rewatched it. It looks like a bag of shit.
So there's a couple of things we should say as a caveat here. Is yes, Richie, you are right. In our react, we were watching a video of a video, essentially. Yeah. You know, that kind of a video of video game footage. Yes, it is still in development. Yes, the game hasn't actually come out, so there is time for graphical overhauls and so on. But it looks like it was made in 2013.
Yeah.
If you told me this was an early PS3 game, I would go, that's aged okay.
Well, this is where the conversation of like remake or remaster. So when they've done a remake, if they just took the PS2 version and moved it up to PS3 quality, did they not realise there's another 2 generations now?
That's what a remaster would be. You're taking the assets that already exist and polishing up. A remake will be you're generating the assets from scratch.
Look at Final Fantasy VII Remake. Like, how much of a difference is that from PS1 to PS4?
This is what it goes back to, like, how do you define each one? Because Ubisoft have done the Assassin's Creed remasters of certain games, and I've platinumed the Ezio collection as well, and those games do infinitely look and play better, in my opinion. But for a remake from the ground up, it should look a damn sight better than this, right?
Yeah. I can show you a screenshot of a remake between Resident Evil and the newer Resident Evil.
There's loads going around. It's becoming a bit of a meme on Twitter.
It is.
The thing for me is sometimes we can be defensive for developers saying, it's still in development and stuff, but it's like, well, this is a trailer. This is what you've decided to show us.
Yeah.
This isn't a leak. This is an actual trailer that January 21st.
All right, so
but
even less time.
So this is what your development team, your marketing team went, this is what we're going to publish. If this is a standard of your game right now, that's what you want to publish and try and sell the game on.
Yeah.
I think they've already have they given up on the game?
I don't think they've given up on it. I do think that, again, I don't want to jump to their defense here, but we do have to give, some comeuppances to basically say, like, look, it is a new studio that Ubisoft have taken on, essentially, or a new studio that they've founded. Yes, okay, it is not as graphically impressive as you would expect to see. But, I'm hoping that isn't the final product, because in the back of my mind, I have an idea of Ubisoft, and it's not always the best opinion, the best thought when I think about Ubisoft. And sometimes I do think they cut corners on certain things, and with the Sands of Time remake, I feel like they're cutting corners graphically, and that is not a good thing to do, considering we're just about to move from one generation to the next.
Ubisoft used to do that a lot, but they got banned heavily during the Assassin's Creed Syndicate and Unity era, and they changed their practices a lot and basically won back people's opinion. But
let's
I don't know. It's
like that old.
When you see a trailer and they go, "If I was putting together this presentation, I'd be sending that trailer back going." That's not ready.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I always think Ubisoft have been amazing at getting the environments right. We've seen that in many games, from San Francisco and Watch Dogs 2 to Ancient Greece and Assassin's Creed Odyssey. They have the landscapes and architecture nailed, but sometimes when it does come to the characters, I don't think they necessarily have the facial animation down, because they do things on such a large scale, and there's so many studios that help out. If you ever start up a Ubisoft game, you get a list of about 5 studios that all helped out in the making of the game, because it's globally cross-pollinated across so many divisions. And when it comes to it, some of the scenes looked really good with like the lighting and the rooms and the sand and everything like that. But then there's that scene with I think it's the princess or something, or the woman in it, and her eye, like under her eyes, it literally looks like you've took a cartoon from like 1998 or something and just moved it over. And there's no detail on her face other than like these glaring eyes, and it's like, whoa, that is rough.
Again, sorry to jump in here, but I do wonder whether they're looking for a certain aesthetic with the Prince of Persia series as well, because I know it's not the kind of franchise that I would expect to see being completely like high-res 4K textures, looking like The Last of Us 2. That's not the kind of game that I expect Prince of Persia to look like. I think if they do decide to go down the sort of slightly cartoony-esque, let's say, like Fortnite-esque, Crater-esque. Like, I don't want it to. But if that's the way they want to take
the thing
it...
is, you talk about Fortnite, this art style's cartoony and simplistic, and I'm being quite vocal, I don't like it.
Yeah.
But the textures are actually good. This is the textures are actually bad.
Yeah.
I'm not the biggest graphics guy. I can play a game with graphics, but I'm watching this trailer. I think the graphics would be like, it put me off playing it. Like, it'd be just the standout as being bad, and I'd find that distracting.
Yeah, but it's got a few more months to stay in the oven. And if you are still with us tuning in and watching this, strap in, because it's probably going to be quite a long episode, this one, because we've got a bumper week. We're still talking about the Ubisoft Forward, because there was a lot of stuff. And I think interesting caveat to the Sands of Time remake, it's not coming. They didn't announce it for next gen. They did say it's only PS4 and Xbox One. So it's not coming. It wasn't listed for Stadia, as a lot of games were at the conference, but it also wasn't listed for PS5 or Xbox Series X and S. So is that what's holding it back as well? Like, are they not they're not even pushing it to next gen because it's running on a PS3 at the moment? Is that the takeaway from it? But
this is kind of what I said. Like, I've kind of just almost given up on it a little bit. It's like, they're bringing it out for current gen after next gen's already released on a trailer that it looks like early PS3 graphics.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. My opinion honestly is they're testing the water for a full reboot of the series, and I think if they're putting this out there to gauge the sales and interest and the fervour around it, and then they go, great, off the back of the success of that one, we're going to relaunch it as a new franchise, essentially.
Do you think they may have just completely forgot that they had this studio that had been developing it for quite some time, and they just went, shit, we need to announce this at some point? So they were like, we've got a slot in the September Forward. Let's just get it done with. As Richie said,
let's just get it out. We need to get it out the way. Let's push it, and then we can just move the studio onto something else.
It's their Atari version of ET.
Yeah,
that old.
Maybe they have done the research and they've got, okay, why is a beloved franchise? We don't think it's going to sell what we need it to put any more money into this game. Yeah. So let's just launch it, recoup what we can, and move the studio onto the next thing.
Yeah. It's also not, by today's standards, it's not really a traditional current Ubisoft title either. The style of games they've switched to are these massive open worlds with like multiple online components and ever present. When we look at their entire roster of like For Honor, Rainbow Six Siege, The Crew, it's all about being online and connected, The Division and such like that. Which brings us to our next story, which we did get the whole showcase wrapped up with a new game announcement, a new IP. We all thought it was Steep. Just out of nowhere, but it turns out there's a new IP, Riders Republic, coming from Ubisoft, and it
also
is
known as Steep 2.
Also known as Steep 2, featuring Trials and all the other
the Crew 3.
Yeah, the Crew 3. I actually thought for a time it was going to be the Crew 3, but essentially it looks like an amalgamation of basically every extreme sport on the go in this kind of similar to The Crew, like an open world America with multiple hub locations you can jump between, but you can do freestyle biking, bike racing, skiing, the flying raccoon suits, what they call like
wingsuits.
Wingsuits, yeah, wingsuits, because they feature heavily in Far Cry games as well. It looks like it's going to be a competition of them with lots of multiplayer, almost like battle royale elements, maybe with like 50 crazy bikers all heading downhill at once. Doesn't personally do anything for me. But I've seen loads of people online say like this is their jam. If this is like the spiritual successor to Steep, because Steep as a franchise is I think it's got quite a niche audience. I think it's quite a smart move by Ubisoft to bring all of these different extreme sports into maybe just under one umbrella and say we can have season content for Winter Olympics, or we can have seasonal content for the BMX competitions that go on and stuff. But having I think all on the same ever-present platform is a smart idea for them in terms of like pushing a new IP, and the name actually fits what the game is. Thoughts, Richie?
Sure.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's not for me. It looks fine if you're into like games. Compared to Prince of Persia, it's actually quite beautiful.
Yeah, all the colours and stuff.
It's like, which I think is kind of more important in this style of game, because especially if you're going down a mountain, you want the landscapes to look awesome.
Yeah. Shout out to Ubisoft Fantasy for this one then.
But I think if you're into the game, it's going to be good. I think the timing is going to be good as well. At the start of a new generation, it can almost, if they support it, it can almost just last the entire generation.
So on that note there, just to confirm that in the current gen version of it, you will only be able to have up to 20 players in a single session online, whereas next gen will be able to support 50 players in a single session. That has been confirmed.
Yeah.
What's an odd difference?
What about Stadia? Which does that fall on current or next gen?
Well, that's the question really where I was going to go with these, because obviously we're now on the cusp of getting next gen. We have a story we're going to talk about in a moment regarding next gen, but we still don't know where Stadia falls in these things for new games that are coming out.
I think it's one of them, depending who you talk to, they have a different interpretation.
Yeah, it depends which servers they allow us on, because I imagine that if it's going to be a server based on current gen, the server capacity will be kept at 20. Whereas if it was just purely just on a server basis,
I think we're probably going to actually know more about where Stadia falls in terms of is it current gen or next gen or somewhere in between with Cyberpunk. Because that's going to be the first big game that's going to straddle the generations, where you could do a comparison between the PS4, PS5 versions and Stadia and see which is it closest to.
I'm with you.
Well, I mean, we've also got Watch Dogs and Valhalla and stuff.
True,
Come on and do that. But in terms of Rise Republic, I think again it's a game for definitely people who are into those type of sports. It looks great, and it does look like another copy and paste Ubisoft. All like the character things. It looks like they've got a bit of Far Cry New Dawn thrown in there, bit of Watch Dogs Legion, like the kind of crazy things. But the aesthetic is very much Ubisoft.
They're also massively at the moment seem to be they seem to be on like a paint air spray. Aerosols.
Yeah.
This seems to be their jam at the moment, doesn't it? Like spray paint and all that
Rebels coming out.
Yeah, it seems to be their jam.
Yeah, I mean, we saw that throughout the entire conference. So some of the news that we will touch on, but it wasn't really Stadia specific. So we saw a big announcement for Rainbow Six Siege World Cup. They announced that it's going over to next gen as well. So if anyone who bought the game on previous consoles, I know me and Richie both have it on PS4, and as does Tom, it's going to transfer over to next gen, which is great. Still no mention of Stadia if it is coming. They mentioned it's got like 25 million plus players worldwide. It's the biggest year they've ever had, so it's hugely successful. But no sign on Stadia just yet. So
I'm optimistic for a next gen version of Rainbow Six Siege coming to Stadia.
I think that's the most likely out of it at the moment.
Yeah.
We also another horrible tease of Sam Fisher coming in Rainbow Six Siege to the Operation Shadow Legacy drop, which went live.
Closer.
I think there.
It's
getting closer. So he's still there. He's just not getting his own game. I actually thought it was a bit disappointing to see them end the conference with Riders Republic instead of a Splinter Cell tease, like a genuine thing. But we did also
the tease
hear
is so easy. If just at the end is just him pulling down his goggles, and that's it.
Yeah, but we still have to wait. Wait. We did find out, interestingly enough, through Watch Dogs Legion, the kind of focus they put on that. Stormzy's in it. The artist formerly known as Stormy. That's thanks for the copyright strike on that one, Stormzy.
It wasn't a strike.
Yeah, well, we both got a message for doing basically his whole song in digital format. I'm sure loads of people checked out if they went into that type of music. But more importantly, that was followed up with a special reveal of one Aidan Pierce returning from the original Watch Dogs game, up there himself, Aidan Pierce. Cool. Hopefully he's going to have a bit more personality this time, and he's going to be able to do a few more unique things that make him really own the game. That comes with exclusive storyline. We didn't see anything from, I think, which we didn't expect anyway, but in our predictions we had Rayman we were expecting to see for his 25th anniversary. Nothing from there, nothing on that front, unfortunately. We didn't hear anything from Rainbow Six Quarantine, even though that game would probably be imminently due out. Where it's at, who knows? We didn't hear anything about Uplay Plus, funnily enough.
No.
Even though that's their big, like, you would have thought they'd want to focus on and all these games you've seen today, you could play on Uplay Plus. Nothing of that, no mention of that.
On Stadia now.
Not Stadia, which we didn't expect anyway. And obviously Skull and Bones is quiet as well. But aside from all that, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, separate from the show, actually, we should point out, was brought forward in time. So the 19th of November, which was its original release, it was brought forward to the 10th of November, which is a very, very important date, which moves us on to our next story of the week, aside from the Ubisoft Forward. We got some competition news. So as I mentioned at the top of the show, the Xbox ship has steered itself, or I should say the Xbox ship had a bit of a leak this week, which forced the hand with their reveal, and we now know the release date and the price for both the Xbox Series X and the Xbox Series S, which I'm going to try my absolute hardest not to get mixed up throughout talking about it, revealed to the world via some very short, simple, straight-to-the-point tweets. And I think it surprised a lot of people. So for anyone listening out there, watching out there, we've got our two points of entry to the next gen series of Xbox, and we've got the Series S coming in at a cheap price of £249, €299 and dollars, or the Series X, which is the top end of the spectrum, which is £449 or $449 or euros. Different ends of the spectrum there. They're covering both bases, in my opinion. And more importantly, I think the thing we wanted to focus on with Stadia, with it being high competition, is the pricing. I think that's something that we've been massive advocates about, the entry point into gaming. And this is the reveal of next gen, gentlemen. It comes also, they're doing it on a payment plan, which we'll talk about a bit more. But just to get your initial first thoughts on the pricing strategy, having the two boxes, and will you be picking one up, I guess is the question. Tom, what do you think? What do you first?
The S is extremely cheap, in my opinion, for a console. And if we want to talk about the monthly plan in a bit, I'll hold my thoughts a little bit longer on that, but I have a lot to say about that. I won't spend too much time talking about it, but I could go on for quite a while. I've got some actual interesting numbers to go through on that one.
All right. So in terms of the actual reveal themselves, what do we think of $299 as an entry point? Or $249?
$249. I think it's incredibly well priced for a new gen gen console.
Honestly, the X coming in at £449, that's still quite well priced.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like,
have you actually seen the size of this thing as well? By the way, the S is about half the size of your PS4. Like literally half the size of the PS4.
Yeah.
In terms of its overall size, it's the size of a graphics card in a computer.
It's so small. Did anyone see over the weekend Phil Spencer actually had it on his shelf during one of his virtual presentations back in July, and it was that small and did not look like a console. Nobody even knew or clocked it.
Well,
Easter egg.
If you think about it, have you ever seen like a size comparison between like an SSD and a hard drive? Mm-hmm. SSDs are tiny. They're literally like that big compared to a hard drive, which might be like that.
For audio listeners,
so that's going to save you a
big comparison and a small comparison.
They quite just Google a size comparison. There'll be loads out there, but you'll save a lot of space in that, and that'll actually be probably better for thermals as well.
Yeah. Now,
definitely.
In regards to these two consoles, though, can the Series S is it truly classed as next gen then? Because from what I've read about, it doesn't do. It depends what you define next gen as, but is the Series S that much of a step up from the Xbox One or PS4 Pro? Is it far enough on that? Yes, we know it's going to play all the games because
I believe the S has a 500 gigabyte hard drive SSD inside it. Sorry, which is what I should say there. So it's
almost like another 0.5 iteration, isn't it? It's not truly.
But I think this is a problem that you have when you start releasing things like a pro model in the current life cycle. Like, I get it, they want to sell things, they want to get money, they get more people and regenerate reinvigorate hype, I should say. But it does feel like it is like stopgap steps going up.
Yeah, well, I think Microsoft have been fairly open about that. They don't really care about console generations too much anymore. That they are. This is, I think, Series S is in the next generation product line, basically. So it's the entry level of that product line. So it will play all the next generation titles with no caveats.
Series S,
apart from things like some games may not be as graphically as good as the Series X, etc.
Yeah,
but we'll play them.
Couple of specs for you real quick. Series S resolution is 1440p with 4K upscaling. So that's very much in sort of like the current Stadia sort of ballpark, really.
Yeah.
We with certain games, we know it does have the capability of playing some games natively in 4K, but a lot of them are currently upscaled to 4K. 120 frames per second, excellent. 10 gig of GDDR6 RAM. Processor is a good quality processor. It is a step up. It's definitely a step up. is it enough of a step? I guess only time will tell once games actually start coming out.
I'd say so. One thing we sometimes forget when comparing consoles is what TV you're plugging it into. Mm-hmm. I dare say like 1080p is probably the standard in most people's living rooms at the moment. People are moving on to 4K as they buy new TVs, but 4K I wouldn't say is the standard. Yes.
Let's give a shout out back to the PS5 discussion as well with Mark Cerny with all the tech spec details, which was a bit of a yawn first. But again, we do need to remember that regardless of specs as well, it's all about how the games actually run on them and how the games are actually optimized for running on that particular set of hardware. The hardware is obviously very much a combination of things. It's the way it's all organized together that's more important, the way that the data runs and flows between things. So we can look at the specs and we can say, yes, it's a step up. But until we actually see things playing on it, it's very hard to actually make a formal decision.
Yeah. If you've got what's the Pro version of the Xbox One X? If you've got that, I wouldn't anticipate you seeing a vast difference when playing on the Series S, if a difference at all. Mm-hmm. But chances are, if you're playing the Series S, the Xbox One X, you're probably looking at the Series X anyway.
Yeah. You can already see how confusing it's starting to get with all these names.
Yeah, they definitely want to go to that mobile Apple yearly iteration model. Like the Series is now, and then the letter is obviously going to be their iterations, like the iPhone 10, that was an X and such. To bring it back around to Stadia though, specifically, I think we should focus on really the price. So yes, $299, $249 is an amazing entry point for quote-unquote next gen. In regards to that comparison with Stadia, though, we know you can pick up a Chromecast Ultra and a box with a Premier Edition for around about the £80 mark now.
Yeah.
And as you were saying there, Tom, it does the whole 4K upscaling, how it plays. It's got the SSD hard drive there for 512 isn't that much by modern game standards. Something like any big game title, I think Avengers clocked in just short of 100 gig with its day one patch included. So you're talking probably, once you take out the internal workings and the software that Microsoft put in there to start with, you're probably looking at maybe 4 to 5 big title games you can have at any given time. And then you're still going to have to install them and there's no disc as well, because that is a digital-only version. So it's cut corners on a few things. But again, I think we should stay true to what we talk about here, which is the entry-level value for Stadia. And I think at £80, whatever it's cloned in at the moment for the Premier Edition, it can be understated. That we all thought the Series S was going to be a dongle, right? That was going to be their entry-level to like xCloud and stuff. But it's not.
I didn't have a clue what it was going to be. I assumed it was going to be basically what it is, a light form of a console. I imagine maybe there's some sort of dongle coming out later when xCloud is a bigger thing than it currently is. But I think that's probably a few years down the line, because they don't want to get in the way of people buying the boxes that they've been probably working on for almost a decade.
Yeah. It's an interesting one. But will either of you two be picking one up? Out of interest, did it tantalise you enough? Did it tickle your fancy?
I am still waiting to see what happens at the PlayStation event, which I believe is being held on the 16th. Yeah, the 16th.
Right. My thing is with Xboxes, I have absolutely nothing against Xbox, but I don't particularly have anything for them. There's none of the exclusive titles that have ever really jumped out at me as must-plays, which is why I've been very much more in the PlayStation camp, despite arguably actually being platform agnostic.
Yeah,
I would for my use case, I would be more likely to get the Series S, because I'm not going to use it that much. And I'm basically saving myself £200.
Yeah.
Can we pivot at this point and talk about the Xbox All Access as well? Because I think that is actually a fundamentally different discussion point to have when considering Stadia, because To give a little bit of information, the Xbox All Access Pass basically gives you the console and Game Pass Ultimate with no interest added on top of it at a fixed monthly fee. So if you decide to go for All Access instead, you can actually get the console at a £0 price investment, plus just paying a monthly fee instead, and you get Game Pass alongside that. So you can actually get the console. If we're talking the Series S, it works out to £20.99 a month. I assume that's probably just a continuous payment until perhaps the console is paid off. I'm not 100% sure on that.
24 month
information yet.
It's 24 months, and then traditionally after 18 months, you can actually trade in your console and get whatever the latest iteration is as well, and keep the plan going.
So they're actually taking a very, very much similar to like the mobile phone market model there, aren't they? Instead, which is very, very interesting when you consider that you're getting the hardware at no sort of like entry cost point. But again, even look at the Series X as well, $28.99 a month as well. That's not that much different at all.
Yeah, the interesting thing from that is just the affordability it makes it. So it can't be understated that this has Game Pass Ultimate combined with it too.
Yeah.
So that clocks in at around £10, £11 in the UK. I think it's $14 or something in the States. That bundled in, I think, Richie, you were doing the maths on it. It actually works out you save $60, £60 or something over the course of the 2 years.
So the maths I have is actually taken from a Windows Central article, and it's all in dollars, so sorry to our UK audience. But the Series S is like $299.99. 24 months of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, and bear in mind that's Xbox games with gold, it's Xbox Game Pass, and it's EA Play now.
Yeah.
That was a new one.
For the next story.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
But that comes in at like about $360 over for 24 months worth of that. So a total of like, if you bought them separately, would be about $660. So you're saving yourself $60.
Yeah. Now, the big thing with all that, though, then, is we talk about subscription models, and I guarantee you, especially with the way the world is right now, asking for like the $449 up front or the $500 or whatever it is for the consoles outright, and then having to buy games on top of that, where we know a lot of next-gen games are coming in at $70, £60 instead. Gaming's an expensive hobby, we've always said that, whereas now this option, if you were to compare it, so if you were to play Stadia, yes, you'd have a cheaper entry point at the £80, £90, £100, whatever it is for the Premier Edition. Then your Pro subscription on top of that. The difference, the comparison thing that needs to be made with this now is for what is it, around £20.99 a month for just over £10 more. With Xbox, you get Game Pass Ultimate, which gives you all their exclusives, day one, day and date. So Sea of Thieves, Crackdown, Halo, Gears of War. You get all of those day and date on release, plus all the extra third-party deals. As you mentioned there, Richie, we might as well fold that story in now. EA Play, which is EA's version of that, is now included. So that's all the big sports titles, Jedi, Fallen Order, all those type of games that EA bring, included as well. For just £10 or more than Stadia Pro. So the value is really, yes, the entry level's less, but with Xbox you're now getting the console, the controller, 2 years of all of these amazing games for just a little bit more, and it's a well-known brand. So then it's like, where does the argument fall into? And this is where I think Stadia need to make some kind of move.
What I think would be interesting is, like this, take the Series S, for example, for basically £21 a month. If you are the sort of gamer who every year you just buy the new FIFA, it's very casual. £21 a month, and you get the new FIFA every year over the next 2 years. That's awesome, and your next generation console.
Yeah. I do think though that EA
on top of
Play,
other stuff.
Without saying that, Richie, the EA Play, it is the EA Play base level you get included, not the Premier Edition.
I did check, and FIFA 20 is currently on.
That's what I'm saying.
Version.
So you get the older games, but when FIFA 21 would come out, I believe you get early access to it if you buy it, but it's not like day and day included in the EA Play thing. So you get discount off new releases, but until they add FIFA 21 into their like EA Play like library. So it's not as good as you maybe think off the bat and think, oh, I get Madden, I get FIFA, I get all these games. You actually, for the new releases, you do have to wait for them to drop onto it. But there's still a wealth of titles there. All the Battlefield games, I believe, are on there, and all the other things, Plants vs. Zombies, Warfare.
If you go on the EA's website and just go on the Play and just Xbox games, FIFA 21 is prominently featured.
I think that's the early access to it, like the 10 days.
Is it?
Play it early or something, yeah. I
get another one to watch, I suppose.
Yeah.
Another one to watch.
It'll always evolve. But in terms of value and big titles and big names, already that does kind of make Stadia look a bit like, so I could pay Pro for a tenner.
It does. However, there are things moving behind the scenes with Google. As of earlier today, ChromeUnbox.com have reported that Google's new Chromecast has a new name and a solidified low price. Now, the new Chromecast device is expected to be priced at a lower point than the Ultra, when it comes out. But it is meant to feature Android TV, so you get the remote with it as well. Now, for those of you who have looked through the APK stuff from way back when, Android TV is expected to be getting Stadia integrated as part of that service now. As well as that, Android TV obviously allows you to download apps from the Google Play Store as well, including Game Pass, right? Including Xbox Game Pass. So what we could have, essentially, is Google could also be then providing a new device that would allow you to have access to not only Stadia, but also Game Pass, of which you could just pay the monthly pass for Ultimate, the monthly fee for Ultimate, to get Stadia and Ultimate at, once again, a lower price point than going in for something like the All Access Pass instead. Again, this is just speculation at the moment, but we'll have to see what actually happens there. But if we do get a device that can play Stadia and can play Xbox Game Pass games through the xCloud, we could essentially be onto, again, another bit of competition here of sort of like bringing that price point even lower down. It's just crazy. It's just crazy at the moment.
It's getting very complicated. Do you remember the days when you just buy the box, you put the thing in the box, and then you play the game, and that was it. That was all there was to gaming.
It worked.
You buy anything, you get cartridge.
Yeah, and now you're weighing up different product plans from multiple companies to play the same game.
Now it's teaching kids to be good at finance.
Yeah.
Well, someone needs to, right, Tom? Someone needs to.
That, lads.
But how am I going to spend my pocket
to buy a game?
I do think with all this, though, we need to... There are a few facts that we do need to look at. And
yes,
the biggest one for me is this, as much as this payment plan, if you're looking for an entry into the Xbox world, is great, it is subject to you passing a credit check with a third-party creditor. So, unfortunately, when everyone turns of the legal age to get a contract on finance, 18 in the UK, you don't always have the best of credit, unfortunately. So £25 a month, some of you may have experienced it yourself out there, trying to get a mobile phone contract as soon as you turn 18 is never a guarantee. Usually you still need your parents to get it in their name for the first couple of years until you build up your credit as an adult with credit cards and whatever. I can see there also being disappointment of people going in with the intention of signing up to this ultimate, complete all-access plan and then leaving with nothing because they failed the credit check. And that's the harsh reality of it. Yes, it's a great deal, 0% APR and stuff, but that doesn't guarantee you're going to leave with it. The other thing to that...
with bad credit as well.
Of course, yeah. And there's the risk of if you miss a payment, what are the repercussions of that? Are the debt collectors coming around? They're going to come and take your Xbox and your TV and everything else to pay off your debt that builds up. Like, there's going to be a lot of small print, which you will have to look out for. I always believe if you can afford it outright, you are better buying it outright, even at 0% APR. However... The other thing we should probably talk about with the Series S and how it does compare to Stadia is still, with this being a digital-only edition, and we've mentioned about the hard drive being so small, Stadia still has the win over that. If I plug that game in, I still have to download the 90 gig Avengers file from the internet. So if you've got poor internet, you could be waiting hours to play that.
At 500 gigs, if games are coming in around close to the 100 mark, you're looking 5 to probably 8 games on your hard drive, and that's it.
If that, exactly. Maybe a few indie games thrown in the mix. But then, so there's also the download aspect. But then, again, Stadia has that portability factor as well. So there are a few pros and cons which go...
There's arguments, absolutely. There's arguments in every which way.
And even then, at the end of it, in 2 years' time, you'll need to get yourself another Xbox, potentially. Whereas with Stadia, the theory is, you've got it. Once your foot's in the door, you keep going.
You know what this makes? In a way, this is going to sound like out of nowhere. It makes crossplay even more important because there's so many different ways coming to play games, even just in the Xbox ecosystem, for example.
Yeah.
That you want everyone to be able to play with whoever, but pick up the best system or platform or whatever that suits their use case.
What gets left behind? What gets left behind? Speaking of being left behind, that brings us on to our next story of the week. We've had an update from Apple. So we all know that, and all of you unfortunate iOS users out there who haven't been able to play Stadia on your iPhones or your iPads, and also haven't been able to play the xCloud beta, which the xCloud actually officially launches in 2 days from the time of recording this week. So if you're listening to this now, it's out there available on Android. Go fill your boots. It's officially out there. Stadia's competition is live in the field, unless it's iOS. Now, Apple have came out this week, and it looks like they've tweaked their App Store rules slightly. I think they're trying to come across as the good guys. But essentially, they've changed their rules so you are allowed the streaming services on their App Store with the tiny little granular detail that the games need to be regulated and checked and individually represented on the store themselves. So to give you an example of that, it would be if you wanted to play Orcs Must Die on Stadia via your iPhone, you would need to go to the App Store. Stadia would need to get Orcs Must Die 3 certified, verified, checked and reviewed for official representation, separately from all the other games in the whole console platform, on the App Store to buy through Apple Direct, which then would divert you to the Stadia app, which you would probably need to download as well. This isn't an answer, really, is it? It's just
no, it's not.
It's stupid. So even with xCloud, you need all the 100+ games on xCloud and Game Pass need to be certified individually for iOS.
What they've done is they've reviewed some lines in the policy that don't make sense, where it's pretty much went, no, you can't do streaming services. It doesn't make sense to be allowing for like Netflix, but not for gaming. But they still just gone, no, you cannot install another storefront onto your Apple device.
Yeah, it's just not feasible, right? Like
No,
the logistics required to get these games individually certified, just to go on the App Store, and then imagine trying to explain to a consumer that, oh, there's Orcs Must Die. Oh, didn't know that was on iOS. Buy. They pay Apple the whatever money, and then it tells them they have to download the Stadia app to stream it, and they now it's just so convoluted. It's not consumer friendly in the slightest. It's not friendly for the businesses, and Microsoft have came up with a statement and said this isn't what we're looking for already.
No,
Stadia have yet to comment, but I'm sure they're under the same mindset where they just need to keep pushing them, right?
Stadia have a bit more of a vested interest, because if you can't play any gaming service on Apple devices, that's them pushing the Android market.
Yeah, it's such a. I mean,
they're going to let Microsoft fight that battle for them.
Yeah, I genuinely just think it's them defending their Apple Arcade model, and they don't want people spending money on other stores. But I've seen loads of articles say Apple give the green light for Stadia and xCloud. It's like, no, they haven't. The light's not even on amber. That
it's clickbait. It's clickbait. It's literally exactly what you've said. They're just trying to make it look, for the court case that's going through at the moment, that they're the good guys and that everybody else is in the wrong for what they're trying to do. And it's not going to work, because you are absolutely right, Chris. It is completely anti-consumer. It's just not. It's ridiculous. You're literally asking them to walk through a maze to play a game. That's what you're trying to do there. It's just a joke.
Well, have you met Apple? This is what Apple does.
It's making me even happier that I've switched ecosystems now, because I'm just like, what is the point?
Yeah, when the news dropped, I thought, oh, Tom's just changed his iPhone over to Android, and then they released this. And then I opened the article, I was like, we're no further on. You just gave us a different complicated route to get the games on the system.
All they've done is they're basically now no longer treating gaming separate to like video streaming services, but the storefront side of it is still you're not putting another storefront on, which makes everything just not work.
Yeah, you've definitely not heard the last of this story, that is for certain, because I'd imagine all the other bigger companies are not happy with this, and they're surely just going to have to keep pushing it in a court of law. And it's weird because they say they're doing it to be consumer friendly and making sure that their iOS store is clear and it's the best for our customers and blah blah blah. But the reality is not allowing people the variety and the option to play their games wherever they want.
Yeah.
It ain't.
The thing is, though, all the games are already rated before they go into Stadia, so the rating thing is just nonsense.
Yeah, but we'll keep a keen eye on this one as it evolves. But as of now, I don't think you'll be seeing Stadia or xCloud or any other gaming platform for that matter that's cloud-based on iOS anytime soon. So if you're thinking about getting a new phone, there's some lovely new Android ones out there you should check out in the market. And final news stories of the week, gentlemen. Before we wrap up, we've got some new games confirmed. We had one of them leak as part of the ESRB ratings a few episodes back, and it had final confirmation from the official Stadia account now. We have Risk of Rain 2 confirmed, and we also have from THQ Nordic Chronos Before the Ashes. Two very different style games. Risk of Rain 2, Tom, I believe you've played Risk of Rain 1?
Yeah.
Would you like to give us a rundown?
Yeah, it's sort of like an action platformer, roguelike, definitely sort of title where you know it's a 2D sort of plane that you run around, you shoot, kill enemies, collect things, try to make progression, fight bosses, blah 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 The second one is actually a little bit different in the fact that it's 3-dimensional as opposed to 2-dimensional. So complete graphics overhaul, very, very different. Indie game. I love roguelikes, but I was never really taken by Risk of Rain. However, I am still excited that it's coming to Stadia. And more importantly, because it gives me a good idea that developers are still talking about Stadia, more importantly, they've also confirmed, devs, that they are creating exclusive content for Stadia in the game too. Which is
an interesting concept from a roguelite. A roguelike.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, they said in the trailer it says new stage play first on Stadia, so they've got that in there as well, which off the back of the Immortals Phoenix Rising news that there's an exclusive island being made for Stadia players. It's interesting to see how they're tweaking. It could even be just while the developers are getting familiar with the Stadia behind the scenes work. They're like, well, while we're testing it out, we'll just make something. And then it just happens to work to enter the game. But obviously we don't get the kind of pre-order bonuses and stuff that other platforms get, so it'll be interesting to see if this is the future of what it looks like. Here's some Stadia exclusive content that you can only do with the power of cloud gaming.
We do for Gods and Monsters.
We do what?
Get pre-order bonuses.
I mean, like physical things to take.
Oh yeah, the physical stuff. Yeah. I'm with you.
So that was one of them. So Risk of Rain 2 has been confirmed. Obviously, we don't have a date yet. And the second game, Chronos Before the Ashes, we should mention that I thought this was a new announcement, but after looking into it, it's an old Oculus Rift game that we used to play in VR, and it seemed to have like Resident Evil fixed camera points, and you had as a third person character, you move them through the level from like different locked perspectives. So it looks like they've took that VR game and they've kind of retweaked it into an action adventure RPG. I'd be interested to see if the cameras are still locked or it's more behind the player, kind of over the shoulder view.
I have to say at this point that I hadn't even heard of this game until 2 minutes before we recorded, and I watched the trailer and I thought, what the hell is this?
Oh god,
it is the most bizarre trailer I've ever watched for a game release.
The trailer is absolute garbage. Like, let's just call it what it is.
It's like, describe it, Richie. It's playing below, so describe it.
Right, so you're starting off with some girl playing games in a room. It's very dark. It looks very 90s-esque, which would fine if you were like a retro game making a comeback, playing nostalgia, but no, this is new, so weird choice, but... So literally there's about a minute of her doing nothing. That just, being in a room, dancing around to some music, literally...
I thought that was
to
the
do
game.
With gaming at all. Yeah, me too.
I was like, the graphics look really good, and then I was like, hang on a minute, this is just real life footage.
She plugs the game into what looks like a retro console, like hooked up to an old CRT, which is quite bizarre. And then the trailer starts like 50 seconds into a 1 minute 30 trailer.
I feel like it just like badly edits like gameplay footage on top of this girl like playing, and then there's a little bit where she's like, her mum is like, it's time for dinner, and she has, stroppy teenager.
Is she even a teenager? I thought the actress actually looked a lot older than like probably the age group she's trying to be.
Yeah.
But aside from all that, the key thing to take away from the game itself is it does have a unique aging mechanic within the game, where every time you die, your player ages, so their stats and abilities within the game become degraded because they've got older. So it's kind of like if you die, you are generally going to come back a little bit older time on time. So you could end up just being like an 80-year-old at one point with like weakness stats, no power, no strength, which in turn probably makes the game harder to progress through. So it's quite an interesting mechanic to have in there.
See, that's an interesting mechanic, and if it's done well, it could be awesome. So why not put that in the trailer? Not some...
That's a random thing.
Like boy shouting a girl down for a dinner.
Doesn't want a dinner.
Yeah, maybe if at the end of the trailer she was like an old woman, Mom, is dinner ready? She wants her soup.
I'd love to have been in the meeting that created that trailer, because that was odd.
You could literally take the real live footage and just cut it in with any game footage at this point, because the two don't link up in any way, shape, or form.
No.
But yeah, it's laughable. But THQ Nordic do what they want, right? THQ Nordic do what they want. The actual footage from this is probably from a different division of THQ Nordic, and they just happen to have some footage free. And they're like, rather than go buy another trailer maker company out, let's just put it in the game and put them to work. But crazy one. So we've got 2 new games coming, and a final point of note as well. We've got some Baldur's Gate 3 news dropped this week as part of the developers' interview showcases, and we have crowd choice coming.
That is awesome for Baldur's Gate.
Yeah.
How do you think it would work best for Baldur's Gate then, Richie? Crowd choice. What influences would it have?
Well, Baldur's Gate is very much story-based, and there's key decisions you'll make. I've only played 1, 2. I didn't actually play Siege of Dragonspear. I have it, but there's key decisions you make in terms of, especially in 2, on things like your morality of your character, which means you can lose party members or even actually get different endings, go down like, it's your very Dungeons & Dragons lawful good, chaotic evil style. Right. And even things like character creation, crowd choice. If you're playing this on stream, you basically could engage with your audience to build your effectively, this is the character we're going to play together.
It'd be interesting to see how they do it in terms of like your party or your characters' interactions with other players and allowing or interactions with NPCs, I should say, and or like a pivotal story plot points and allowing chat to make the decisions for you. That's the kind of stuff we need. It's the kind of stuff we need.
Definitely interesting. Obviously, we do get that in about 2 weeks' time, end of the month,
2 weeks,
September.
Yeah.
So exciting stuff finally coming. We get to see what Davy Jones is up to and all his crazy octopus crew. And then exactly. And then by the end of the month, we should also point out as just one final note as well. We did a post-show episode about missing in action Stadia games, and I've seen some fervour over on Twitter about where the hell Madden 21 is this past week, because obviously it's now out on other platforms. Everyone, you're just going to have to add it to the list. Add it in there with Jedi Fallen Order, SpongeBob, Destroy All Humans, because these games are now out everywhere else announced. And the final thing of note is Dead by Daylight. We were told it was coming in September with crowd choice, we presume. We've got 2 weeks left of the month. Gents, when do you think we'll see this?
In the next 2 weeks.
You think it's going to be this week's stealth drop?
I think it's going to drop on Thursday. Yeah, I think it's Wednesday, Thursday. I think it's going to be... We've had this sort of like... The last couple of months, we've had these sort of like pro games at the start of the month and then a pro game in the middle of the month. I think that's this month. I think it's going to come this month. This week.
We hope it's going to come this month.
Do we know
this month?
Is it confirmed to be a pro game, or is that just speculation?
No. But I think it's a pro game this week. It'd be nice.
I feel like they would announce
game,
it
no
as a
DLC.
pro game. Yeah, I think they would have announced it as a pro game at the start of the month. So remember, we got 5-6 games this month, right? Still.
Yeah, we did.
Even though I'm pretty sure I also said it would be a stealth drop pro game midweek, I think a few episodes back, so I won't say too much on that one. But that brings us to an end of this week's news stories. It's been a busy one. Obviously, we've covered off all the Ubisoft Connect forwards. Damn it, why do I keep saying? But we probably should be due another Stadia Connect soon, right? We were promised one.
I mean, it's nearly Stadia's 1 year anniversary.
And we're coming up
I'd expect
October.
Either on the anniversary or the run up to it.
It's got to be something
next week.
Something's got to be due. But as we speak of next week, as I mentioned at the top of the show, don't forget to join us next week for episode 52, our 1 year content and the celebration that will follow. Thank you everyone for dropping by this week for the Sounds of Stadia podcast, where we've talked about quite a lot of stuff. All the Stadia stuff as well. Don't forget, as always, to like and subscribe to the video and the channel so you are kept in the loop with all the upcoming news stories and live streams that we bring you. We've got another live stream this Thursday. Don't really know what it is yet. Maybe Avengers, probably some more Avengers, I would guess. And all the celebratory stuff to come as well. But thank you very much for tuning in. Hope you all have a great week of gaming. My name's been Chris.
I've been Tom.
I've been Richie.
We've been Sounds of Stadia, everyone. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.
Bye.